President Joe Biden is talking tough on Iran, and yet Iran-backed proxies have now launched 66 attacks on U.S. bases in the Mideast. So when is enough enough? Joining me now is Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. Senator, good to see you. We just had General Jack Keane on talking about how we should be hitting Iran where it hurts militarily. What about the maximum pressure that was so successful employed by the Trump administration to cut off their funding? I mean, that's what really brought them to their knees. They couldn't fund Hamas. They couldn't fund Hezbollah when we denied them the oil revenue that Biden lifted. When is he going to start with a maximum pressure campaign that worked?
Probably never. Remember, we're dealing with Joe Biden here. Obama's Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates, said that Joe Biden has been wrong on every major foreign policy decision for the last 40 years, and that string remains unbroken. The Biden administration is picking up where the Obama administration left off. They did the nuclear agreement. That funneled more than $100 billion into the largest state-sponsored terror. And through relaxing sanctions, the Biden administration has done the exact same thing. So they probably don't want to admit they're wrong. I don't know why they're coddling Iran. They're trying to change their behavior, which they've done. They've made Iran more aggressive. They've changed their behavior for the worse. But they just don't realize it. Again, I can't explain this administration. If you had to develop, or if you were asked to develop a strategy to destroy this country, you could not come up with a better plan to implement than what Biden is doing to America right now.
Well, they did employ some people that seem to be, if not on the side of Iran, if not working as agents for Iran, at least were sympathetic to some of the Iranian causes. And one of them, Rob Malley, is out of job right now because of they're looking into whether he might have shared intel with Iran. So they may have done that. But I want to switch to the other side of the ledger, what we are funding, which is Israel. And the Democrats now seem to be putting all these conditions on Israeli aid in order to appeal to the left side of their political ledger, the Bernie Sanders, the AOCs, et cetera. What do you make of that? How much longer will they be able to stall aid that Israel needs now?
Well, unfortunately, the radical left, which is pretty much the definition of the Democratic Party right now, supports the Palestinians and by and large, is not particularly critical of Hamas. That's why you see on dozens of college campuses that are run by leftist professors, leftist administrations, you see these young students who've been indoctrinated protesting in favor of Hamas, these brutal murderers. Again, it's hard to fathom, but it's not surprising at all when you realize the radical left has taken over our university systems. They've controlled them for decades, and they've infiltrated every institution of this country.
Including the Congress of the United States, at least in part. I just want to ask about the bill that Speaker Johnson, your namesake over in the House, has put forth, suggesting that we pay for the Israeli aid by taking money away from supersizing the IRS. Is there any chance that you could get enough Democrats, senators in the Senate to agree to that?
I would hope so, but it'll take public pressure. And right now, because the mainstream media is by and large in the back pocket of the Bidens and the Democrats, we're not going to get that public pressure. Look what's happening on our border. Biden's open border policy is a clear and present danger to America. Last time I checked, it was the president's responsibility to address clear and present dangers, not cause them. He caused this clear and present danger, and Democrats are backing him up. They won't vote to construct the fence. They're screaming when we say before we're going to do any funding for Ukraine, you're going to have to secure the border. But they won't agree to that either.
Not all Democrats, Senator. I'm going to push back a little because there are a couple of Democrats close to the border or right on the border, like Congressman Cuellar, who are not in favor of the Biden policy on the border. Do you have senators on the Democratic side who are worried about that, particularly those in the southwest of the U.S.?
It's a handful in Congress. But let's face it, I've put forward 3 amendments, 2 in committee, 1 on the floor of the Senate, to just complete building the wall that we'd already bought and paid for. That it was costing us more not to complete than to complete it. Every Democrat except for Joe Manchin voted against those amendments. So that pretty well gives you your answer. They're not serious about securing the border. They want all those people beholden to the Biden administration, Democrats, letting them in for their votes sometime in the future.
Well,
it's sick, but it's a clear and present danger.
Some of them might.
We ought to be addressing that now.
Some of those, particularly those in states that are affected directly by the border, may lose their job at that. But I want to switch to the Biden financial scandals that seem to continue to be coming. By the way, remember back, it was just a year ago, or even less than that, just a few months ago, we were hearing there's no evidence there. This is a wild goose chase. You guys are trying to make things up in order to make the president look guilty. Well, then we came out with these checks, the $40,000, the $200,000 checks. And of course, they were these checks written by Joe Biden's, Joe Biden's brother or his sister-in-law, had on the bottom of it that it was a loan repayment. Have you seen any evidence of a loan ever being made? Because if there wasn't, then he has some tax problems in addition to explaining what the payment was for.
I haven't seen it. The problem we have is Congress, you get stonewalled in your investigations. The federal government, the Department of Justice, FBI, they don't turn over the evidence. This would have been so easy for the FBI to track this thing down, for people like David Weiss to investigate this thing. They should have had a conclusion on this years ago. And of course, Senator Grassley and I, in our report in 2020, before the election, it was pretty obvious to me how corrupt the Biden family was. Millions of dollars flowing from these adversary countries going into a labyrinth. Number of companies obviously set up for money laundering. Hunter Biden doing nothing other than selling the family name. It was obviously corrupt. I don't think you'll ever have enough evidence for the media to declare them corrupt. But I hope a majority of the American public makes that verdict.
Well, Chairman Comer did get those checks. I mean, he does have the ability to use his subpoena power to get specific evidence that could prove a case, no?
Yes, but all his subpoenas, that they fight over them. It's not quite like the FBI going to a bank and just say, turn over your records, and they do. It's just much more difficult for Congress to investigate these things. It takes time. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to me. I'm sure it's frustrating to Jim Jordan and Jamie Comer as well. It's frustrating the American public. They're not getting the truth, but it's being covered up by the mainstream media and the Biden administration.
Yeah, well, they're getting enough evidence, so the charge that there's no evidence cannot be made credibly anymore by anybody, including Jake Tapper and others in the media. Senator Johnson, good to see you. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it.